Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining this session from. This is Anandh. I'm a global product manager for API-led integration and technology lead at Roche, a global pharma company. And in my role, I'm responsible for operating, strategizing, and running the API platform. And it is interesting that we get to talk about a subject that is close to me, and thanks to Gravitee Edge for allowing me to talk about our experience at Roche. All right, so API and events. So the topic is about how do they enable a composable architecture and help deliver fair data. I'm sure this is a big question in everybody's mind, and yeah, let's allow us to share our experience and a little bit of our viewpoint. This is not the only way, and there are multiple ways that you could do it, but this is our view on how at Roche we have done it. For the session today, we are going to look at a few things. I'll talk about how the whole thing drives from a digital transformation perspective, the composability architecture and the play. There's an interplay between digital integration and the composable architecture, and that leads nicely into the digital transformation. But we are also going to touch on a little bit on the data organization, data mesh, data products, and things like that. And then we'll talk about those two key themes that we earlier mentioned, APIs and events, and how they intend to be a key enabler or key products in the composable enterprise. And towards the end of it, we will also talk about how we at Roche were able to achieve this, and where there's challenges, and how do we look at those challenges, opportunities, and so on. Right. So, talking about digital transformation, world is talking about it. There are a number of initiatives. I think everybody has their own viewpoint about it. Digital and transformation. This is big. But if you were to look at a few key themes, I was trying to pick on those that will be relevant for a session like this. There are three pillars: composable enterprise, how we would look at building digital blocks. Businesses are becoming extremely digital. You could see that on a day-to-day life, and agile. And finally, they wanted to create value and exchange value out of those digital products that they are building. Right, the number of examples that we could talk about. It requires an IT architecture landscape that has to evolve quickly to deliver those composable building blocks, the digital building blocks, and they have to be intelligent and they have to be quick. So there are multiple ways to do it. All of this rolls up into even multiple other, I would say, initiatives. Even many companies look at even modern ERP solutions being rolled out in a composable architectural manner. Yeah, so this is a good viewpoint and a critical viewpoint to have. The second part of the view is about data products. So data plays a very vital role in our digital economy. That's like, as people talk about it, data is a new oil, or it's an important part of the digital economy. It's actually the fluid that runs across, and it is important for us to look at how in a data product enablement, and that as a digital transformation theme, how composability and the data products go hand in hand. So there's a nice interplay there. We'll talk about it. And then you look at the digital initiatives that goes on in every single organization. So hyper automation, Gen AI, which has taken over the whole world, and in the hype cycle right now, it is at a surge, at a high end, I would say, and digital integration that I have fitted in there. It is also because there are so many interactions, which is machine to machine interactions, that are on the rise, that goes along with the Gen AI, considering that there are new players or personas that are introduced, likes of your digital proxy. So these are some of the major themes that you could see, and we will be talking a little bit about the interplay that I mentioned earlier on. Now, if you were to zoom into digital integration piece, which I talked about earlier. So one of the study from MIT earlier, a few years back, they said, hey, what's in the coming years, what you're going to see in the digital world, which is exactly where we are right now, and then the way forward, integration is going to be a crucial business enabler. It's not going to be something that will be, dealt with a separate entity, but it is going to be an integral part of, the digital ecosystem in a company, and that would be a very important business enabler. And yeah, it is extremely foundational. Keep this thought in mind, and because when we see, the further part of the slides and the discussion, you will understand how this is going to turn out to be. But yes, this is very, very critical, and we see this in our own ecosystem and in our landscape pretty much. Data products. To start with, to look at how, we look at data products and so on. Data is everywhere. I think, we all understand that in an organization. For instance, in a company or in a healthcare ecosystem like where I am, data is present across the value chain, right? So right from a research, early development, then you have clinical trials, and then bringing it to the commercial markets, and fulfilling regulatory requirements, and so on and so forth. Data is all over the place. You have transactional data, you have the data products, and enterprise data and master data, and so on, multiple. So you have an ecosystem where you're able to prepare the data products, then you're able to store them. You need an ecosystem where you need to actually build insights around, and then finally you're able to prepare those data products in such a way from across the domains that you're able to bring it into a marketplace, and allow your consumers to use them on the fly. And you would need, finally, something would be that we are able to plug in the digital integration ecosystem as well, because end of the day, the data alone, having the data made alone as a product is not going to help, but you would need the data to be used in the call, and allow the consumers to use them as they want and when they want it. So there is again part of the interplay that I mentioned earlier on. Yes, this is a part of the ecosystem, and digital integration. Many organizations these days are becoming part of the data organization itself. So yeah, digital integration plays, again, this is a second part of the connotation as to where digital integration plays an important role in the composable solution development. This is one angle. And the second part, be looking at the composable architecture is going to be from an industry view. We'd all have seen the slide from Gartner a few years back, and the whole concept of a composable enterprise has three core elements. You have a business architecture that is composable. You have a technology that enables you to build composable solutions, and then you have the whole thinking process or the mindset in itself. And around that, you have the core design principles. In a nutshell, if you look at it, you're able to deliver packaged business capabilities, and more so the ability to compose or recompose business process solutions or capable solutions across a domain, and that too in an integrated manner, right? So if you're able to make that happen, you're able to then deliver a composable solution or composable architecture through which people can expose their solutions. So this is part of the Gartner ecosystem. So if you zoom in a little bit on the packaged business capabilities or PBCs, again according to Gartner, you could see few important things, right? So packaged business capabilities are building blocks. They are, of course, thinking Lego block type of model where you can try and put pieces together when you have packaged solutions For examples, let you see, there is an order management, or there is a customer um, data that's coming from another, or there is another uh, solution coming in from a supply chain side. You could organize all of that in such a way that it will give you an end-to-end rating. But when you package it, there are going to be challenges. There are ways that you would have to move the data that comes out of these capabilities, and that's where your concept of user interfaces play out. For instance, here we are talking in this, you would always see those APIs and even channels that places those user interface. So you could see that in a composable architecture, or a composable enterprise solutions architecture, you have the business capabilities that is a building block that has to be developed as a building block, and your APIs and events play a very important role in those user interfaces that will unlock the value of the data coming in from those business capabilities. Yeah, so keeping this in mind, we took this approach, and we said, okay, what can we do at Roche? And we started looking at it. Of course, there is a bottom-up approach of looking at how you could build all of that, but there is also a top-down view of looking at building those architecture across the board from a different domains, and then combining it to put together a solution from across domains. Then you have the full value across the ecosystem, right? So this runs across the enterprise value chain. So both the top-down and the bottom-up will have to come together. Now, so zooming into that API and events architecture that we talked about, or the capability that we talked about, uh, there are, of course, these two, and beyond that, there are more. But we look at these two as core fundamental enablers for a composable enterprise development. Your API-led integration is critical, as important as an event-driven style. So both has its play. Yes, all of us know that your API-led unlocks data for a north-south traffic, and on request or on demand, wherein an event-driven type of approach is basically a push-based, and it allows you to fan out your data and distribute it across different consumers who have subscribed to. Now, these we see in our ecosystem after 3 years from where we started off, both have to coexist, will coexist to achieve those reusable patterns, and brings out value that we could create from those data assets. That I think this is not either or choice, but I think an API-led and event-driven together makes this difference, and we have seen that complementing uh, ecosystem play up in our architecture as well. And I think this is actually how most of the companies are also going about and embracing as well. One thing to mention about Gravitee, I believe this is an area of big interest for Gravitee, as I've seen and heard, and also studied a little bit about that they have both come up in their enterprise architecture, as well as in their product design and their future as well. So at Roche now, we have both these patterns, and we also took a conscious decision to move away from a point-to-point approach, or a traditional approach of developing integrations. Now, there is a key point to mention here, and every time we look at APIs and events, you could look at it as an integration pattern. You can look at it as a way that you could develop integration solutions and make it available to your consumers as an endpoint. Or you could also look at these as what we call it as actually enabling products. If you, when every time you look at whenever you develop an enterprise capability, and you look at exposing that as an API or an event as part of that enterprise capability, where you would expose a particular type of data. Now becomes a data a product, because That's an enterprise capability that you want to use to compose, or you want to reuse in your organization. So likewise, the endpoints that exposes that data or the business capability would also be seen as a product. That's what you see here. And so the key term is an API as a product or an event as a product. So this is a mind shift change from the way that we used to operate earlier on, and from a point to point to becoming more a product centric of developing integrations. That's what you would see in the next section, where we moved away from a complex scenario of developing point to point to um, becoming a more composable enterprise, that where number of APIs and events which are purpose built are now delivering a sort of a Lego block model to put together solutions. Right now, that's exactly where we are heading to. So this is definitely a new type of approach, and many have moved away from that traditional way of doing it into more modern way of delivering this. Now, for us, we have seen a value that it by producing these type of digital products, APIs, and even products, we are able to deliver fair on the data, and this is digital integration playing its part to deliver that fair concept and bring to life. So how do we do that? It's one thing is very important. I know if you were to deliver a product, you need to make that product available in a place. So you see on this slide, I know that we have an integration marketplace. It's basically a one-stop shop where we are able to bring all of our integration digital products. We allow our providers of those products to come and harvest all of their products. In this case, the API is a product or event is a product, and allow consumers to come and find it and easily access it. Of course, it's all driven through a secure way of how you allow them to access it and help in and reuse it. And we are able to measure that reuse as a success story is becoming even more critical, and we were able to achieve that. Um, and yeah, I think this is a very critical part of an enterprise that is composable in nature. And as we saw from a data organization point of view, how an API and even product enables a fair data and bring that whole concept to life. So moving on a little bit, while it sounds interesting, it sounds easy to uh, talk about, and conceptually this might sound good, but there are always challenges, and we look at these challenges as opportunities too. And at Roche, we came across a number of them. As you see that, uh, of course, the vision is always compelling, but if you look at, on the other hand, the challenges are all part of the flow, as well as the strategy evolves to handle these challenges while you look at them as opportunities. That's what we have done. So some of them that you will always see that in an environment where this is purely from a digital integration perspective, that you'd see you will have multiple vendors, multiple technologies, and multiple platforms that you would where you are developing your integration solutions. It could be even APIs, or it could be events, or it could be a simple reusable solution. May not be using any of that, but still, it's reusable. What would you do when you have multiple technologies and multiple platforms, or vendors ecosystem solutions? You'll have to look at an opportunity to see how to harmonize all of that. And the second one is, would you have a unified way to design an API, or would you allow every single developer in your ecosystem to go design and deploy an API or an event the way that they want it? Of course, we need an approach for that. So this is another challenge I'm sure most of us would come through. And Thirdly, so after these assets or the products are developed, where would you host them? Like we talked about, we need a marketplace. That's critical, and that's a challenge. Initially, when we start off, we don't start off with thinking that we would have a marketplace. But if you go through a greenfield approach of setting up these platforms and one, then I think that's great. I think you can think about having a marketplace from day one or from scratch up. When you don't have one, it becomes a challenge because you would need to bring all of your assets into some place. Finally, you also need to what you cannot monitor, you cannot control. As we say, that it is important that you need to have a management plane across the board, and also single end-to-end observability, because this is critical as well. Now, all of these are all opportunity areas. So we look at it and see this an API first approach for a unified API design as a method, and this is irrespective of any number of platform that you could have. It is platform independent in a way, right? So once you have that as an approach, then you would have a single management gateway through which you would be able to govern your API and even deployments. And that's important because that's where you set up your policies. That's where you define your SLAs and SLOs, as well as the service levels. And then finally you're able to bring it into the marketplace because your product is now ready, like we said. And that's where you have your workflow set, whether it is for approvals or publishing your assets and enabling the consumers to come and interact with the providers of the product, and literally offering that end-to-end view, because a product in itself covers the life cycle. And you would have a product owner, which is the critical part of having a marketplace, and looking at it from a product perspective, that the marketplace would require an owner for the identified, or for every single product that we have built and harvested into that marketplace, because it drives the entire life cycle through that. And finally, like we talked about, end-to-end traceability becomes key, because you in a composable landscape, when you put together solutions, you would need to see how that entire flow in the ecosystem would look like. Yep. Well, if you were to look at what happened at Roche, we did move away from traditional integration approach to a digital integration approach. It took us 3 years. There is a way that you would go about this. If it's a greenfield, you start small, and then you start, moving up, start crawling, and then start walking and sprinting. What is important is to see, we start thinking to move towards, and that move is very critical. The mindset change is very critical. So, of course, it took for us to take small steps, and at the point where we are right now what we have done is we have unlocked data from about more than 400 connected apps. There are so many applications that we have, hundreds and thousands on cloud, on premise, and so on. So we were able to unlock data from more than 400, and we were able to build over 500 plus API products and even products as well. And we were able to bring most of our API products into the marketplace. And we are working towards bringing it and bringing the event products as well into the marketplace very soon. We were able to prove that it is possible with the vendor that we are working, and this is important for us to bring that, and we were able to make that. So our ecosystem is even more critical as I mentioned in the previous slides. So the unified design, development, deployment experience is critical. So for us, this is 200 plus member community that includes our Center for Excellence, as well as the DevOps and the federated delivery teams. For this is again a big success now, because we didn't start with 200 initially. We started off with a small set of uh, SMEs and developers coming together to deliver something, and it grew over a period of time. Now we have industrialized the entire ecosystem of how we develop APIs and clients. Yeah, and in our global infrastructure and the digital integration footprint, we have about close to 10 plus integration platforms. And yeah, we continue to strive to make sure that we um, don't solve integration problems by throwing a technology product as an answer, but we look at a problem and find and look to solve through first a pattern integration pattern, like we saw an API led or an event driven, or it could be a file based, or it could be an ETL or a data streaming type of. There are a number of different patterns that in turn are mapped to an integration platform. So it's very critical for us to stay true to that, because as part of the digital integration footprint, it is important, as we said earlier on, the key takeaway would be to look at the outcomes, which are the digital products, which we have those digital products uh, again harvested into a marketplace. It's easy to reuse. It's easy to compose solutions out of it and recompose, and value grows. And yeah, I think that's what makes a composable architecture come to life. And through these approaches, then you would be able to deliver fair data. That's what we have achieved, and we have good, compelling stories. And finally, our goal is to see when we build those composable solutions, by and large, when it uh, reaches our end uh, consumers, finally it would also come to a point to deliver great outcomes to our patients as well. That's when it gets fulfilling. Yeah. Um, in summary, few things, like I said earlier on, from our point of view. So it's purpose-driven move from a traditional approach to a digital integration approach, because we know that the interplay between a data-driven approach uh, to to have an architecture that's going to scale and evolve, especially in a composable landscape. For us to deliver a composable solution, it's very important for us to have that architecture, which is purpose-driven. So we chose that. Number one, we decided not to expand on our traditional footprint, but we started investing and expanding more on the digital footprint. And number two, which we talked about again, when you want to look at APIs and events, or if you want to even look at products that will help you solve or help you deliver APIs and events as products, and and more importantly, these products are going to be developed not many times centrally. Maybe you could start from there, but most importantly, when you start moving towards a federated model to deliver data products and also integration products around it, the functional domains will have to be enabled. So the product mindset, right from the initial days, right from the scratch, has to be embedded in the system when you develop your first API or your first even product. It's good to have the product mindset, so that you have an ownership, and then you have the life cycle around it, so you could be able to achieve your end goal of looking at how these products are being used and reused, or how it's being used in a composable architecture to deliver value at the end of the day. So that's a very important part. The third part we talked about is the unified API management, and the most important thing is, you need a single platform or a tool which goes with what we talked about, and a marketplace. That's the fourth point, and it's very important to have that. And I would highly recommend looking at number of solutions that are in the market, or even be so that you could build your own solution to bring all of your assets into a single place. So as you see that, we've come about this few minutes, that in the digital transformation and its ecosystem, or in the entire transformation that is going on in many companies that we see today. Digital integration is no more a, an old mindset type of an integration approach to deliver something, and that is in a in a place in a corner, or to be maintained in a corner in a company, but it has become a critical foundational ecosystem. And yeah, there's a critical examples that we could quote how APIs and events, we were able to also showcase how from a Gartner packaged business capability, how APIs and events play an important role to unlock the value of the data to help compose solutions. And yes, I think this is no more a theory or a concept, but in reality, it works and it has worked for us. Happy to talk about it more or to clarify any questions. And if you would like to stay connected for further discussions or clarifications, happy to do so. You could pick up on my LinkedIn QR code, and let's stay connected. And thank you for listening, and meet you soon. Bye for now.